Hey Oasis Youth, Pastor Caleb here. I don't always get as many opportunities as I might like to address you all directly, so I'm taking the chance that I have this week while Sam and Sarah aren't feeling so well to reach out to you and share with you a lesson from the scriptures that has become very dear to my life and my personal experience. See, very early on in life, I started recognizing that we don't always come into life with the same resources as everybody else does. Some people come from really healthy home environments where they might have two parents that have a strong marriage or several siblings that might annoy them once in a while, but all in all, they're a good, healthy, strong support system for them, and they know what to expect when they come home, and they have a strong family life. Others of you I know come from broken homes, and you might be with your mom one week and your dad the next, and there's very different standards in each home, and you don't know who you can trust and who you can rely on. You don't have the same kind of family resources that other people have. You might even be in foster care, and maybe you like the family you're with right now, but you don't know if you'll be living with them in a month or 2 months or a year, and who knows what the next household's going to look like. We don't all come into life with the same skill set, the same talents. Some people are better at math than others. Some people are better at reading than others. Some people are good at sports and other people are not. We don't all grow up with the same financial resources either. And I think that sometimes the less resources we have, sort of the more at a disadvantage we feel like we are. But what if, from God's perspective, it's not so much about the resources that you do or do not have, but how you utilize the resources that you do have available to you? There's a story, a parable that Jesus told in Matthew chapter 25 about a rich young man who went on a business trip. And before he went on his trip, he went to 3 of his servants, and he gave them all a different amount of money. To one servant, he gave 5 talents. A talent was a unit of money in Jesus' time. So let's say he gave this man $500 in today's language. Well, to another servant, he gave $200. And to the third servant, he gave only $100. They all started out with different resources. Then the master goes on his business trip, and while he's away, the servant who was given $500, he goes out and invests that money. He lets his money do work for his master, and he ends up making $500 more. And the servant that was given $200 goes out and invests that money, and he ends up making $200 more. But the third servant, the one that was given the least resources, he was afraid. He was afraid that he'd lose what he had, and that his master would come home and be furious at him for it. So instead of investing the money, instead of utilizing it the way that the other 2 servants did, he hid it under a rock to keep it safe. And when the master came back from his journey, the first servant came to him and said, "Look, master, you gave me $500 and I am bringing you back 500 more. And the second servant came in and said, "Look, master, you gave me $200 and I'm bringing you back 500 more." And to both of those servants, the master said, "Well done, good and faithful servant." He was so pleased with them, and he was equally pleased with both of them. He wasn't mad at the servant who started with $200 because he only made $200 more, and he didn't treat the servant who had $500 extra special because he made $500 more. See, the resources they started with didn't matter. And then the third servant comes forward and he says, Here, master, you gave me $100. Here's the $100 you gave me. I kept it safe." The master was furious with that servant. "You slothful servant! Why didn't you invest my money in the bank so that you could come back to me with my money plus interest?" He was furious because his servant did not utilize the resources that he was given. What if the same is true in life? What if we don't all start with the same resources, but God does have an expectation on each of us that the resources we do have, the gifts, the talents that we do have, that we're going to make wise decisions with them, that we're going to invest them in something. What are we going to invest them in? See, Jesus told this story, this parable, to some Jewish people. And the Jews were given a very unique resource, a relationship with God that was special, that was unique, that none of the other nations really had. It was the whole highlight of the Old Testament when he saves them from slavery in Egypt, and he makes a covenant. A covenant's like a marriage. He married the Jewish nation, but he did it for a reason. He did it to invest, that they would share his character and his goodness, be a messenger to the rest of the world. See, if you're watching this video, then you've kind of been giving an interesting resource as well, haven't you? Frankly, it's a resource that I wasn't given until I was almost 17 years old. See, I grew up and I went into a couple churches a few times, and I saw pictures hanging on the wall of a man with a beard, dressed in white, floating in the clouds, and people said his name was Jesus. But nobody told me who he was or why he mattered. I didn't grow up with that resource. Some of you probably only recently have heard that important information yourself, have only recently gained that resource. But Jesus is asking us in this story, what are you doing with it? Are you investing your time, your energy, your financial resources, your interest, your talents, your abilities? Are you investing that into my relationship with you, God says? Are you investing in your youth group? Are you coming to your meetings? Are you singing along with the songs? Are you worshiping God? Are you reading your Bibles? Are you watching the Covational videos that Sam's been putting on and taking part in their YouVersion Bible studies in the morning? Like, are you utilizing the resource, the blessing of the gospel, the good news of Jesus in your life? Are you investing in inviting your friends to come to youth group too? Are you trying to help them get a hold of the same resource that you've been blessed with? Because listen, you're part of a family. You're part of this family. You're not just some isolated corner of our church called the youth group. You are us. You're not second-class citizens here. I care about you. Pastor Bill cares about you and your development. You're part of our family. How are you going to utilize it in your life? Are you going to take advantage of the resource you do have in the gospel, rather than letting the resources you don't have bog you down or discourage you in life? Because we don't all start with the same resources. But that's not what God cares about. He wants to see you invest in Him. Invest in the gospel. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, come to earth to die on the cross to save you from sin, rising again 3 days later to give you an opportunity, to ask you to invest in a kingdom that will live forever. Think about that. Pray about that. How can you invest more? How can you utilize the resource of the gospel in your own life? How can you be a greater part, a more lively part of this family? I love you all. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next time.